Welcome back to Investing and Trading Live, sponsored by Trading Academy. As always, I am your host, Josh Lillquist. In the last segment, income strategies, using leverage properly, capital efficiency in the markets, was basically being comfortable putting a smaller amount of capital that will control a much larger asset and just doing more with the dollars that you do have. We have classes specifically on those assets or those vehicles like futures, forex, and options. To come to one of these classes all across the metro, simply just text the word investing to the number 210-210. That's for 2 seats, one for you and a friend. If you're driving, you might want to pull over because they say you're not supposed to text and drive. So please pull over. Text the word investing to the number 210-210 for 2 seats for an investing class specifically on how to use leverage properly with futures, forex, and options. We also appreciate all the followers and subscribers on the podcast. It's going global. We are going to be the number one global podcast on the financial markets. Just go to Investing and Trading Live, wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. So Al, with this next segment here, there are a lot of retirement issues out there. There's a lot of people that don't have enough, even though I talked about that stat or that news banner that I saw the other day. There's more 401k millionaires that are out there. So whatever that means, because is that 1 million? I mean, I guess 1 million would be considered a millionaire. I mean, it's not a lot of money these days because you can't really retire on that. So if you're listening right now and say you have $1 million, maybe 2 or less, it's going to be very difficult for you to retire comfortably and confidently. So Al, I want you to talk about the different strategies on, first off, how to not be in that camp of being short in retirement. You always talk about protecting your retirements, but being able to protect them and grow them at the same time.
Yeah, let me comment first on what you said before about the 401ks. The number of 401k millionaires has grown. That is very true. But remember, there are a lot of people who have multiple or multi-million-dollar portfolios that started out with that years ago. Warren Buffett probably has a retirement. He might have a 401k. You think he's got more than $1 million in his 401k?
Who knows?
Of course. So there's a lot of high-paid executives, a lot of very successful people that kind of skew those numbers. But when you look at the median amount in a 401k, it's closer to $70,000. And when you look at now the gold standard for a successful, comfortable retirement being closer to $2.3 million, that $70,000 is far short of that, which could certainly have an impact on the quality of life you live in retirement.
Yeah, so real quick here, if you're that person that maybe 70,000, the average, or even 100,000, don't feel like it's too late, because there are ways and strategies to amplify that with leverage. Right. So don't feel like you can't do anything. Hopefully we can inspire you to try to do things a little bit differently, but you got to get started now.
Yeah, even if you don't have a 401k, let's say maybe you got a 401k that's got 70,000 in it, or you don't have a 401k. Not every company has a plan or a sponsored, an employer-sponsored retirement plan.
Yeah, that was a tongue twister for you, wasn't it?
It was a bit of a tongue twister.
It must have been a long weekend for you.
I'm fine. Go ahead now.
You can go ahead now.
So, what do you do if you don't have any money in a retirement account and you're going to retire? And what happens to your income when you retire? That's gone.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Well, the markets can be looked at as a huge multi-trillion-dollar ATM machine that everybody out there has an opportunity to participate in. You can take part of participation. You can take part of that multi-trillion dollars without really being seen by the big players out there. So there are strategies you can use, even if you think it's too late. It is never too late. And if you're not willing to do something, then you have to rely on a couple of things. Number one is Social Security. And if you're living with an income of, say, $60,000, let's say $60,000 a year, that's your lifestyle is based on that. You retire and that's gone, and you rely just on Social Security, the average is about $18,000 a year. That's a $42,000 shortfall. That's going to impact the quality of the life that you live. And if you're going to be retired for 20 years times that $42,000 shortfall means you've got to have at least $840,000 in your retirement account. If that median is $70,000, that puts a lot of people far short. So what can you do? You can use leverage, as we mentioned, where you can take a relatively small amount of money. You mentioned a couple $1,000s. And you can use that to participate in something that has the opportunity or the potential to control something maybe worth $50,000 to $100,000. That's using leverage. That's how the big players, and that's how the pros do this. They're not really, I can guarantee you, a professional trader out there and the hedge fund managers, they are not putting their money into mutual funds. They're using these leverage assets. Them. They will sell them to you. They'd be more than happy to sell them to you. You know what they really want to sell you is an annuity.
Oh, gosh.
Annuities, the fees can be as high as over 10% for an annuity. And depending on the kind of annuity you have, if you die, let's say you buy an annuity and in 2 years you die, all of the money that you put into that annuity is gone.
Yeah,
depending on the type of annuity.
Let's maybe cover the annuity in the next segment. Let's continue on with what they can do differently in those retirement accounts.
Yeah, in the retirement account, you have access to a number of different things compared to a 401k or 403b. Typically, those are restricted to mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, or individual stocks. In a self-directed IRA that you can set up, or in a portfolio, you can invest in options. You can invest in the futures market, the foreign exchange market, cryptocurrencies, real estate. You can have physical gold as part of those portfolios. Mm-hmm. And one of the great things is you don't have fees. So the fees that typically are associated with a 401k or 403b are gone. That could have the fees that you look at. If you're very conservative in the number, if you look at just 2%, which is on the far low side in overall fees, but at 2%, 50 to 75% of what you could have when you retire is gone to the fees. It's the lack of continuing compounding of that money. So in a self-directed IRA or just a regular portfolio, you can invest in the options market. You can invest in futures, forex. You can have protection on your assets. You can participate whether the market is going up or down. Or how about this? What if it's going sideways? What if we don't have much movement? Basically, the market's sleeping for the year. You still have to have the ability to generate income if you're retired. And you can do that with some of the assets that I just mentioned. There's some great strategies to use regardless of what direction the market's going. Even if the market goes up, down, or sideways, you can still benefit with one investment.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about that up, down, and sideways in the next segment because I think that's important as far as how to buy, how to sell, where to buy, where to sell in the markets, whether you're in your income accounts or your retirement accounts. So especially in retirement accounts, you have different accounts out there. You have 401ks, IRAs, whether it's traditional or Roth. You have the 403b, which is typically your healthcare or government or teachers is usually who has those accounts. And those are just like a 401k, same type of concept. And then you have TSBs, there's saving plans. So there's different accounts that are out there for people. Now, the key to start building those is to save. And that's where you start. You start by saving. And that's one of the great things the 401k actually did is it taught people how to save. But if you're saving money and you're putting it in the sock drawer or whatever you're doing, you're not doing anything with it, you're not getting it to grow, then what are you really saving for? I mean, you might as well just spend it because over time, inflation and the devaluing of the dollar, it's worth less and less and less. So understanding what these strategies are now could impact you in the future. Could it impact your family's future, your kids' kids, your grandkids? So it's not always about making money like people always want to talk about. That's the fun thing to talk about. But it's all about what it will do for you. Is it to leave a legacy for your family? Is it to have more comfort in retirement and being able to just do the fun things that you want to do? Maybe it's just being grandma, grandpa daycare or whatever that may be at that time. But it's not free. So it starts with saving and then being in the right vehicles to get to where you want to be financially. We have classes that are specific on these different vehicles, as I mentioned earlier, on how to get started with the right vehicle, how to allocate your capital in the right spot. I mean, it's all about protecting it, but then it's not using the whole thing like you probably are now, which is really 100% at risk. So it's taking small increments of that, utilizing the leverage, even in those retirement accounts, and keeping a lot of that in cash so it's protected. So you're amplifying the dollars that you are using. Specifically, futures, forex, and options will do that for you. That's the vehicle. Now, the vehicle, it's always going to be there. The driver, that's you. And if you want to learn these techniques and strategies, simply come to one of these workshops, these investing classes. They're specifically on retirement strategies. You can come in by just texting the word investing to the number 210-210. That'll be for 2 seats. Most people bring their spouse with, because if your finances are important, most people want their spouse involved, even if they don't want to do that. Text investing to the number 210-210 for 2 seats for an investing class to get started with those retirement accounts. We got a lot more to discuss. We're going to talk about how to buy and how to sell, but also where to buy and where to sell coming up next. This is Josh and Al, Investing and Trading Live. We will be right back.